Hi, good morning, everyone. How are you? Hope you got some coffee and water, maybe some snacks to keep you going. My name is Natalie Unwin-Kuruneri. I'm Assistant Dean of Academic Affairs at the Climate School. I'm going to be moderating today's student panel, and I'm joined by four current students who represent the four climate and sustainability programs that you heard about earlier. They're here to share their experiences in the program, how they got here, and to answer questions. Our goal today is to really help you understand what each program is about and hopefully help you clarify which one would be the right fit for you. You heard earlier from the faculty, and you'll hear from the students themselves, there's no one profile of a student. They come from very diverse backgrounds, and that's really a strength, I think, of the climate and sustainability programs here. I'll quickly introduce each panelist and answer a few starter questions, and then we'll open it up to the audience so that you have ample time to ask questions. So sitting here to my left is Evan Brooks. He is currently an MA candidate in the Climate and Society program at the Climate School. He is a graduate of the University of Maryland, College Park, and brings several years of experience from the public sector in environmental policy. Next to him, we have Olivia Colton. Olivia is currently an MS candidate in sustainability science at the School of Professional Studies. She is a native of San Diego and earned her bachelor's degree in conservation biology from Louisiana State University, and she served in the U.S. Army for 5 years prior to coming to Columbia. Next to Olivia is Jeremy Ragwain. Jeremy is an MPA candidate at the Environmental Science and Policy program at the School of International and Public Affairs. He was born and raised in Seychelles and graduated from the University of Cape Town. He brings over 6 years of experience working in the environmental field. And last but not least, we have Olivia Whitner. She's an MS candidate in the Sustainability Management program at the School of Professional Studies with a focus on sustainable food systems and waste reduction. And Olivia graduated from Pomona College with a degree in environmental studies. So first question for the four of you, and we'll start with Evan. Can you share with us your climate and environmental sustainability story and what led to your interest in a mission-driven program?
Good morning, everyone. So my story, it's not necessarily about me.
Bring it a little closer to you.
Hello?
There
Okay.
we go. Perfect.
My story isn't necessarily about me. It's about my father. He grew up on a Superfund site before it was designated as a Superfund site. So that's initially what pushed me into pursuing environmental policy. He had cancer several times. He's totally healthy now. He's honestly healthier than me. But that's what pushed me to pursue environmental policy. I wanted to learn how these laws were made, how people were affected by them, and that led me to pursue politics. And I ended up working on Capitol Hill, making some of these laws for a couple of years.
Thank you. Olivia Colton, same question to you.
So I don't know if I have a specific answer. I knew in undergrad I wanted to study like conservation biology and work outdoors, outside. It's always what I wanted to do. And then following 5 years working for the government, where I spent a lot of time looking at Excel spreadsheets, I definitely wanted to make sure I had a job, something I was more passionate about, as well as something outdoors, active, and more enjoyable.
I can definitely say the outdoors is why I got into this, but I think it's also thinking about my parents. I wanted being an artist and a farmer. I really understood how dependent we are on the environment. In somewhere like Seychelles, where you're literally surrounded by the ocean, surrounded by a lot of natural beauty, it's kind of hard not to think about that and be like, maybe somebody should be protecting this, or how are we dependent on this? But my real jump into it was basically going off to a UNESCO World Heritage Site and seeing a humpback whale breach for the first time and thinking, wow, if anybody saw this, if everybody saw this, what would that mean in terms of how we treat this planet? So that really drove me to take an environmental science degree and also think about international relations.
Yeah, I first got interested in environmental studies through food systems, through going to farmers markets, working on farms. But then after I graduated with a degree in environmental studies, I kind of didn't know what to do about it, and I was wandering the job field and ended up at a startup in San Francisco that was working on a circular solution to furniture, and we were doing like rental furniture, and it was really cool to learn how to build something from the ground up. But at the end of the day, sustainability was still more of a convenient marketing play than a core business value. And so I knew I wanted to learn more about how to actually implement sustainability values throughout an entire business. And I was looking at jobs, also looking at programs, and this program just had everything I was looking for.
Thank you. Cross-registration is a really popular question, I think, for prospective students, and what are they going to be able to take here? You're probably familiar with a lot of the core courses across the programs, but can you share which course you most enjoyed as your elective and why? I know we're early on in the semester, so maybe if there's one that you're taking in progress right now, that also works.
So for me, I'm taking an energy efficiency analysis class. It's all about how to retrofit old buildings, how to retrofit old homes with new modern technologies that are also climate friendly, like heat pumps. So we get to do site visits pretty much weekly. Just yesterday, we were in a boiler room, actually, in the building next door, seeing how the boiler was replaced. So that's really my favorite class. I like the hands-on aspect of it.
So if anyone here is looking into sustainability science, I don't think we have the same exact measurement of a elective the same way some of the other programs do. You can just take 12 sustainability science courses. However, there's also a lot of flexibility in the program, so you can enroll and cross-enroll in anything if you can justify it. And so right now, I think I'm taking Intro to Mammalogy through the Evolutionary Biology department, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm planning on taking the follow-up one next semester.
Yeah, thinking back to the summer, it was mostly environmental science, so we were working with a lot of people who are based in Lamont. Ecology as well was one of those courses that I really enjoyed, built on what I had already experienced, but also really went into a whole different level of analysis and also different content in terms of the US or other kind of case studies. So I really enjoyed that, but right now I'm also doing a grad seminar within the ecology unit as well. So that's really interesting because it's not just studies, but it's also maybe hopefully publishing something and discussing really interesting topics at the moment.
I'm taking a class at the Public Health School all the way on 168th, and it's Food Justice and Public Health, and it's taught by Professor Mark Bittman, who is a writer I was familiar with before coming here, so I was like, this is an amazing opportunity.
I would love to take that course. Mark Bittman is a very well-known chef. Wonderful. Are any of you involved in any extracurricular activities that you would speak to, or have you worked on campus at all? Can you speak to a little bit of what you're doing outside of the classroom? And that's open to anybody who's currently doing that.
Okay, yeah, so I work in the Student Affairs Department here at Morningside, as well as I worked at the Tree Ring Lab at Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory. I'm also your student government representative for sustainability science and a member of Rescue, which is a sustainability science or sustainability management club. And I would speak to any of that being a great experience. That would be my biggest piece of advice for any prospective students, any students, is to get involved and try anything, try everything. And it's the best way to lead you into more opportunities.
Definitely agreeing on that. I'm currently a TA for Professor Sheila Foster for Climate Justice Theory and Practice. And honestly, I get half the joy is sharing what I know from being from Seychelles, taking part in negotiations related to climate. But the other half is really learning from others in the room who are really bringing their own experiences, really bringing their own perspectives. So, being a TA, especially for someone like Professor Foster, has been really exceptionally enlightening. And it's giving me a chance to connect with more people on campus.
I'm on SUMASA, which is the Student Association for the SUMA program, and our job, similar to some of these other orgs, is to build community, welcome new students. We threw a big Halloween blowout party last night, and we're just here to provide a lot of resources and make people feel comfortable in the program.
That's great. And I will say there are many, many opportunities to do just what the students have said they are doing, to be TAs in different classes, to get internships here on campus and work with the different centers and programs, to do research. So there's really a robust set of offerings to really dig your hands in. What's one piece of advice that you would share with a prospective student that is planning to enroll in your particular program? And we'll start with Evan.
So what was one thing that I was really struggling with deciding when I was deciding what school to go to is where I wanted to be after school. And being in New York City, there's really no other city like this anywhere in the world to me. And I think the opportunities that Columbia provides in New York is something that I really weighed heavily in my decision, whether it's if I want to go into finance or the United Nations, international development, or even work for the New York State government, the things the New York State government, it's amazing. So I think that's what really helped me make my decision.
For anyone going into sustainability science, I'll just kind of reiterate what I said before, which would be to get involved. And there's so many opportunities here at Columbia, here in New York City. And so try everything you can.
Speaking for the ESP, because it's 1 year, it's intense. It's definitely one where you're starting off the summer with 19 credits. You can carry on with 19 credits, and hopefully that goes down to 16 next semester for me. But I would really say before diving into something that's 1 year or anything as intensive we're all doing, really take that time beforehand to rest and read into that subject that you're interested in, because that time is super fast, but it's also intense. And I think the best asset you have is the person sitting next to you. You might be coming from different backgrounds with different strengths. Once you find your group of people, you share your skills, what you find is your strength and what is your weakness, you get to learn together. So really advise that time and friendship.
Mine was going to be the one about New York's resources, but a different one is SUMA is a very, very flexible program. People come in with so many different backgrounds and interests, and so every class can be an opportunity to explore an area that you're interested in, particularly through final projects. There are quite a few classes where you get to work with real-world clients, and so if there's a company that maybe you want to get a foot in the door with, you can reach out to them, try to do either an ESG report for them or carbon accounting for them, all sorts of opportunities. So make the classes what you want it to be by pursuing your interests.
Great advice, thank you. Now I'd like to open it up to you all, the audience, for questions. So just raise your hand, as similar to before. I think there'll be a mic going around. And if you could just direct your question to... Oh, you do? Okay, that's coming up from the back. And I think we have a first question over here.
So my question was, in terms of for people who, it seems like all of you had previous kind of professional lives before coming back to school. How was that transition, and how has it been faring? Like, how is it adapting to that change?
And that sounds like it's a great question for everyone. So maybe we'll start down with Olivia Whitner.
I've been even thinking about this recently because I'm kind of in the middle of my program, so I'm thinking about transitioning back into the workforce. But I think when I first started this program, I was so excited about just the opportunity to learn, and my job was to be a student, to explore all these areas that I kind of felt like I was trying to crunch into my job previously, and it had to force it a little bit. And here, that whole world was opened, all the resources were there. At the same time, time management is difficult in the sense that, or it's different in the sense that I don't have a set time that I'm working, and then an evening off. My classes are in the evening, kind of working throughout the day, part-time work as well. It's a little bit more flexible. So the transition, there might be some time to figure out what schedule works for you and how much you want to put on your plate, but the opportunity to kind of choose exactly what that is was really exciting.
Yeah, definitely something that takes a while, and I think when you're looking at why you're here in that sense, it's good to remind yourself to think, okay, we've kind of, in my case, removed myself from a place and sought after particular information, particular networking, and just reminding myself every day, okay, this is the decision and this is what's leading to the next step. And I think because it's always going to be challenging, I think, of adapting ourselves to new routines or old routines from, 10 years ago. So for me, there's times where I'm going into microeconomics or particular fields that I've, only had so much experience with. And so in those moments, it's all about remembering why I chose this path. But beyond that, I think it's about thinking about who's helping you in that path. So having supportive, partners or family, loved ones is something that's really been important. And I think that transition has been made easier because all these other responsibilities that you've got going on, they don't just stop because you're maybe on campus for long hours. They still need to be done. So I feel having the support is very key as well.
So I found that after coming from 5 years of work, I think I have some great time management skills, or I am doing way less schoolwork than all my other classmates. I don't know yet. I hope that's not it. And however, to counter the good time management skills, I lost some basic math, science skills that my classmates who are 22, 23 still have because they graduated in May. So whatever, in one class we're doing like unit conversions, and frankly, we're halfway through the semester and do not still struggling to remember how to do it. So there's a trade-off there.
Much like Olivia said, my life before this was vastly different. I was working really long hours, pretty much every day of the week, doing interviews, going to campaign events, very different from school. I didn't really get a chance to learn as much as I wanted to, and that's a large reason why I chose to come back to school is I can go to my professor's office hours. I can go to an event with world-renowned energy leaders and still have lots of time to do my schoolwork with my classmates, do research. And another thing I'd like to add is I can kind of relate to not remembering a lot of stuff about school, but the program really helps you connect with your other classmates who are, whether they're younger or they've been doing a certain career that's similar to what you may be learning, to connect and really work together to bring back some of those skills.
Other questions? We've got one here, and then we'll hold for you.
Hey, thank you. So for those of you that had the option between full-time and part-time programs, what factored into your decision to leave your careers and do full-time school or, do part-time? Doesn't seem like, from what I'm gathering, that anybody's in a part-time program, but I'm interested in that calculus because that's where I'm at personally.
Who wants to take that?
I didn't want to stay at my job, and I was like, either I get another job and try to find my way into the climate space that way, or I get some of these skills and network and enter that. And when I was looking for jobs, I was like, I don't feel prepared for these based on what I was doing before. And yeah, and then I decided to do full-time school, work part-time, so to just support. But yeah, that was just the most logical conclusion.
I pretty much have the same answer. I didn't like my last job. I was ready to leave, and I didn't have anything lined up here in New York. So I knew that I wanted to commit and go full time. I will say that full time passes very quickly. I'm halfway through now.
I will add, I love my old job. I still miss it, honestly. But really what made the decision for me was that I can truly focus on school. Part-time, it's possible, it's doable, but you don't get to necessarily take full advantage of whether it's office hours, going to events on campus, going to events in New York. So that's kind of what made my decision for me.
All right. We had another question over here, third row.
This question is for kind of all of you, but mostly Olivia for the MS in Sustainability Management program. So it sounded like that program is like 400 people. That's a lot of students. And so I'm just wondering, how do you feel like your professors have been able to give you the level of attention that you need in your programs? Do you feel like your advisors have been there to the level that you need them to be? Like, what do you feel like kind of that student-faculty ratio is for that level of support and learning that you want to accomplish?
I've been very, very impressed with how much time the professors have been giving, and so many of them are practitioners, so they're working full-time jobs and being professors. Also, out of that number, I think many of them are part-time, so I don't know how that plays out in like faculty to student ratio, but yeah, whenever we always have TAs and they always have office hours, but professors often will have office hours themselves and you can go directly to them to speak. And I have seen a lot of relationships be formed out of classes as well. Even this evening, one of our professors is organizing like a Halloween pumpkin carving festival in her neighborhood, and a bunch of us are going to volunteer. So it's very organic in the sense that I think all these professors just really, really want to help us. And I don't know how they do it, but somehow they make the time for it.
And another question over here.
This is a question, I mean, any of you can probably speak to it, but mostly for the Climate and Society School for Evan. Do you find that you or your classmates come in with like a very clear idea about what they want to do when they graduate? And do you also find that like the school, that you have opportunities to explore things that you may not have considered about what your path might look like after?
Some people honestly have a very clear-cut idea what they want to do. I was one of those people before I started. I thought I was going to go straight back to the campaign trail, back to politics. I'm kind of reevaluating after some of my courses. I'm enjoying them that much. Like I mentioned earlier, my energy efficiency class, it's making me reevaluate how much math and science I may want to do next semester, a lot more. Just because I'm enjoying it so much, it's opened my eyes to a lot of different opportunities and a lot of different nexuses of opportunities where I can, I guess, and a lot of my other classmates can find different routes in what they may have assumed was available before.
Hi, my question's for Evan. You mentioned you worked on Capitol Hill, so I was just wondering, why did you choose the climate and society major instead of the environmental science and policy program?
That's a great question. I ask myself that a lot. But for me, it was just the breadth of the program. They've really put a focus on being an all-around program, whether it's climate adaptation, climate mitigation, the variability of climate, and all the different aspects of that. For me, in my old job, I honestly didn't have the time or the energy to do a lot of the background research around science and math that's necessary, being totally honest. And again, that's part of the reason why I came to Columbia. And the program really emphasizes rebuilding if you don't have them, or building upon those core skills that you need to be successful in the future. And yeah.
We have one in the fourth row there, and then we'll come back to you.
My question was for Evan as well, and it was, why did you choose climate and society over sustainability management? Because based on what you've been saying, it seems like you're open to going into private sector roles. So what did you feel like climate and society had that sustainability management might have not?
Don't get me wrong, they're all wonderful programs. But for me, again, it was just the breadth of the Climate and Society program. It gave me more routes, more options. It didn't, not that the other ones don't, they all do. But for me, I researched the professors that were in the program, and they best fit my needs, honestly.
Hi, my name is Adrian Wilson. This question is for both Olivias. Yeah, sorry, I didn't know both your names were Olivia until somebody said Olivia, and they looked at you, and I was like, you don't look like that.
We didn't know either.
But so, what was there any like conflict or like resistance between choosing between sustainability science and sustainability management? Because I know that like for sustainability science, it's more in the analytical and like quantitative research, but for you, it's more, business management, organization management. Was there, did you know what you wanted to do immediately in the program, or was there like conflict between the two?
I came from the private sector and was planning to go back into it. That, might change, but I was even considering MBAs in sustainability, and so, and there are very specific MBAs in sustainability. There are also broader MBAs where you can concentrate on sustainability, but sustainability management seemed to have both of those things, like you were saying, the business element and the climate science and application element. So I didn't spend that much time looking into sustainability science because I just found sustainability management and really liked it.
So I was considering both. One of my deciding factors was that, like I said, after my previous career, I really wanted to get back to like science, real science that I've always enjoyed. One of these things, and just like Evan said, these are all great programs, but one of my deciding factor was I asked my brother about it, and I was like, there's this management program, there's this science program, what do you think? And he, I do not mean for this to sound kind of mean, and also it was my brother. He said, the management program sounds a little bit easier, but then why are you going to Columbia? So my family's from California. I uprooted my whole life to come here and pay a lot of money and things, and that is how he demonstrated it. And I was like, you're right. So here I am.
Other questions from the audience?
This question is for Jeremy. Kind of, I guess, do you find that most students come from like an environmental science background or a policy background? And kind of how does that dynamic play out in like the cohort in the classroom?
Sure. It's a really diverse background set. So you've got people from consulting, some people have just come from undergrad, a lot of people coming from marketing, from also conservation as well, but I could spend a long time trying to tell you everything in terms of how many, but it's about 60 people. Half of them are from an international background in the sense of coming from outside the States. And yeah, engineers, all sorts of different kind of characters. So, and that's really, again, its power is the sense of the summer course is all focused on the science. So maybe you're strong in science, maybe you're weak in science, but after leaving that process, you really come out on top with environmental chemistry, climatology, hydrology, all these other things. And then we move more into your policy, your management, other kind of courses as well. So that's where other people's strengths come through, and that's where there's a bit of a trade-off as well.
Other questions?
Hi, this is for everyone. Can you tell me why Columbia, among other Ivy League colleges? And I want to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you. Evan, do you want to start with that one?
Yes. I'm sure Alfred and some of the other people can tell you, I literally waited till like the last day to choose Columbia. I was choosing between Yale and California Berkeley. But Columbia, they made it easy for me. I was really struggling whether if I even wanted to leave my job first and then decide what school I want to go to. But the program, they really reached out to me. They made me feel like I'm at home. It was a really easy transition because of that. I felt like I knew everyone in the program on my first day before I even met them in person. So the school did a really great job of introducing everyone to me and introducing the New York environment, the greater Columbia environment, and all the great things the school has to offer.
So I did not apply to any other Ivy League schools. Columbia was my reach. All the other schools I applied to were on the West Coast. I didn't think I was going to get into Columbia, so the decision kind of made itself at that point. I hope that's an adequate answer.
Out of the schools that it came down to, it was between Princeton and Columbia in a sense, and it was interesting to think about the program that I was after. I was also thinking about the MA in International Affairs, but when I saw like the kind of levels of experience that I could bring to this particular program, the time period in terms of finishing it within a year, the program really sold Columbia to me. But in coming to Columbia, I think being in New York, being in this network, the kind of professors I'm engaging with, no doubt other universities have great professors in that sense. But in terms of the work, I mean, when we think about the legacy in terms of climate change and global warming, in terms of thinking about people who've thought about this and really brought it out into the rest of the world, to not just places like the UN, but I mean, as far as around, you can really know this name and really trust what has taken place in terms of the science, in terms of the international impact as well. So that really drew me from a place like Seychelles to somewhere like Columbia. But it's really that trust, and I think at the end of the day, the kind of people you're meeting with, the kind of professors you're talking to, that has proven to be the program as well as the school.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think when you choose Columbia, you're also choosing New York City, and so a lot of the benefits are related. It's a super international city and international school, so I really appreciate all the perspectives that are shared in my classes. And there's so much going on in the climate space in New York. It's wild. The second week of classes in fall semester is Climate Week, and it's 500 events of people sharing their innovations and policy, and it's overwhelming in the best way. And so I just feel like New York that's pretty unique to this area.
And right up here.
This question is for all of you. Did any of you apply to more than one program and have to decide between two programs, or have admissions decide for you because you got into one program? And I don't know if you want to be candid enough to answer the second question.
Is that specific to Columbia or more broadly? No. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, I mean, selecting between the two programs I was offered, there was a lot of factors. I think, again, time was an issue of 2 to 1 years. It was also thinking about the kind of support different programs can provide you in terms of the ratio to professors, but also financial support in terms of scholarships and everything. So I'm an environmental fellow within this program, so there's a lot of, I would say, really good support in that sense. But beyond that, I think it's a case of looking at what courses you can take. I mean, the ESP program, and I'm sorry if I've oversold it as a very science program in a sense, but it's one of those things that you can really choose from many different schools to go through and have electives from. So I like that kind of level of freedom as well.
Any other questions? We've got one in the, right over there by the wall.
Hi, this question is kind of for all of you, but if you're interested eventually working in the international space, and I've heard all of you touch on how New York City is a really international city, what program would you say would best align you or set you up for that, or are different aspects of each of your programs where you see that?
That's a tough question, because again, all the programs are great, but I think personally it's more about your own, I guess, effort to make it an international thing, because all the programs, they have offerings, all our classes have an international focus to some extent, because climate is a global issue, but it's really more so, in my opinion, about going to whether it's UN events or, like Olivia mentioned, during Climate Week, there's international experts all over the city, everywhere. It was hard not to run into people who are involved in the international space. So I would say it's really just kind of what you make it, if that helps.
I will plug our Career Design Lab, which is physically located in Midtown. Not only do they have like a career counselor for each large program, they also have a specific portal software. I haven't used it yet. But they have a specific program for people who want jobs internationally. So you can just apply for international jobs, and I'm sure there's a way on there that you can narrow it by country or region or something to that degree. And then additionally, it's New York, so there's lots of international connections. I know we've said that a bunch of times. We don't need to say it again. But I'm sure that there's someone here who can, bounce you to someone in Japan or something. There's a connection somewhere.
I found coexisting between nature and politics, or international relations and environmental science, being really a way in terms of if you're going to be at the UN or if you're going to be in an embassy or some other international consortium, you're going to think about, one, the skills of diplomacy, the understanding of the international context, but then what is that added advantage in terms of how deep do you go into the science, how deep do you go into another aspect that you can bring to the international system. So the ESP is really this bridge between science and policy. So speaking in that way, I think you come in with that ability to think about the international sphere, think about national or federal levels, and then really go into a particular level of understanding within maybe urban policy, within climate change, within hydrology. So that kind of level of skill sets, 2 sets of skill sets, is really good out there. And again, I think just echoing the sense of the kind of electives that you take, what you make of it. If you're really choosing particular electives, you've researched your professors, you really engage maybe as a TA, you'll find yourself linking up with the right people. So really being, meaningfully engaged with your electives is key to finding the right kind of connections and maybe finding that international job.
Yeah, I think they said.
Yeah, I would say that each of the schools has a career office that will help you if you're interested in working internationally. In addition to that, there are over 4,000 alumni from across these programs that are working globally. And so we connect students with alumni. So if somebody's working in a country you want to go to or an organization that you're interested in working with, you can make those connections and network with them. So there are definitely opportunities there as well. Other questions? We've got one over here.
You can feel free to get as specific as you want, but what types of jobs do you plan to apply to once you're done with the program?
It's a tough one.
I personally know I will always have the politics route if I want to take it, but I think personally I'm going to try to do something around energy with the energy utility, something of that sort, and hopefully be able to improve some of these companies' low-income assistance programs for energy bills, weatherization, that type of thing.
I kind of in the same vein or the same idea as I think I'm going to rotate back to conservation, which is what my undergraduate degree is in, and I want to work in like field research, something to that degree. I should figure that out, but.
That question brought me right back to my application page, and I think, you know, I really came to this program to challenge myself, to really look outside of my field, and I've spent about 6 years working with a nonprofit and in government. I really, in terms of thinking of, you know, the state of our planet, the state of the situation we're in, where are the drivers of change? So knowing nonprofits, knowing government, I was like, the private sector's always been on the other side of that. I've not really understood how it is to work in the private sector. So I definitely see myself working in the private sector for a period of time. And I think, you know, the first decade of your career is quite foundational for what might come next. So I think there's a short period in the private sector, maybe even an ESG team, or maybe something of a think tank. But I want to challenge myself and see what that might look like, and either going back into a nonprofit setting, but more generally end up in government back in Seychelles.
Yeah, I'm also still figuring it out, but my original plan has kind of been broken open by all these other options I've been exposed to, and even some connections through classmates. So I could either see myself going into more of a nonprofit route, maybe working on something like food waste, which I'm just personally very passionate about, or I think I've confirmed I'm more interested in startups than larger corporations. So some startup in the food space, maybe on sourcing, or yeah, there's like a couple companies that swirl around my mind, but I still need to make those connections.
We have time for a few more questions, so raise your hand high.
Hi, this is kind of a boring but maybe important question. Do any of you, or can any of you speak to your experience with financial aid and how you've managed to navigate that through this program?
Yeah, I can start. So Columbia, again, they made it really easy for me to come here. I'm not worried about my financial aspects because of the program. I'm a Diamonstein-Speilvogel Fellow, so it covers my entire tuition, books, fees, as well as a stipend. So I'm pretty well funded. The university really made it easy.
I am an Earth Institute Fellow, which is an award for tuition generally. However, my tuition is already covered by my veterans benefit from the military, so which also covers my books and supplies. However, I will say I did not have that last semester, so to make sure that, to be very honest, I had to pull out a large student loan as well as the FAFSA, and I was working, so there is, like, it wasn't ideal, but that is, how you get through.
Yeah, speaking candidly, I think as an international student, you have to weigh up, in terms of how much you're going to access financing in that sense. Generally speaking, within the U.S. So I think in this program, it was a lot of generosity to get me to 50% of my tuition. But then thinking about it in terms of a return on investment, as a STEM designated degree, you basically have this chance to work for up to 3 years in the States. And if you're thinking about trying to make that money back and thinking about your general reinvestment in yourself, that plays out into your calculations. So it's never easy to figure out the finances, but there's a lot of help to figure out the finances.
Yes, and I would say it's an expensive school to come to, like that's the truth, but there are lots of scholarship and tuition aid available, and so if you're interested in applying, definitely reach out to the admissions officer and financial aid officer to see what sort of package could work for you.
I will say that at least some of us will probably be here for a little bit afterwards. If you have questions or you don't want to, we don't have time, or if we don't get to you, you can ask us personally.
My question is for Olivia. So regarding the sustainability management program, you mentioned that you have a core interest in joining a startup, perhaps after you graduate. How much would you say is the school, the career resources helping you identify, because it's somewhat nebulous to find startups in certain areas specific to sustainability. So how are you finding the support that you're getting to navigate that world?
Yeah, my main two resources are either fellow students or just events in New York City at large. I think maybe my last semester I'll spend more time with the career design lab, but currently it's just been students will share either startups that they work with or that they're familiar with. New York Climate Tech hosts these happy hours every month or so, and there's a lot of showcases. Food Hack is another one that has a lot of events, so just showing up to those and kind of learning what's in the field has been inspiration, and then making those connections, I'd probably reach out to more of the Columbia resources.
And just to follow up, if I may, do you feel like you're getting traction when you present yourself from Columbia with this program? When you talk to startups, when you talk to executives, do you feel like you're getting traction and they're showing interest in your skills and the skills that you're developing?
Yeah, honestly, I think this program, particularly in New York, is pretty recognizable. I don't know how much it's necessarily like the @columbia.edu email makes a difference, because sometimes I'm reaching out personally, but sharing that I am in this program because I'm dedicated to it and I'm spending all this time on it, I think bodes really well for people looking for employees.
Thank you.
I think we can take one final question.
Hi, folks. Thanks for chatting with us. I'm curious, going a little bit backwards, we were having a lot of forward-looking questions, but I'm curious if you took any coursework before starting, like given, the gap that a lot of us have between our undergraduate microeconomics class that, we're really reaching back for information from, but is like foundational to the work that you're doing here as students. Curious if you took any coursework in preparation for the summer or like first term courses, and if not, would that have been helpful, especially in the MA and MPA programs, where it's more, maybe 60%, I think was the number of like Bachelor's of Arts degrees coming in?
Yeah, I can speak to that definitely. So for example, I didn't leave my job until about 2 weeks before school started. But the climate school, they gave us a boot camp. It covered coding, basic science, basic math, chemistry, physics, and that was honestly really helpful as I started school again. It covered a lot of things I hadn't thought about, and more time I'd like to admit. So I think the school itself really helped support us, knowing that a lot of us were coming from backgrounds where we hadn't done math or science or coding in a while, or if at all.
So I know that, I believe Harvard, started a program, and now multiple universities do it, but you can attend, they have a number of classes you can attend for free online, all the sessions, and then if you pay like $50, you do all the homework and get feedback on it, and then if you pay $100, you get a verified certificate, which you can like put on a resume and stuff. So I did actually do a Harvard course, the CS50 Intro to Computer Science, before starting school here, and not only did that give me a little bit of insight into the class that I had to take last semester for coding, but also it kind of helped get my brain back into school after only working for 5 years.
Yeah, I think that period of time between job and starting your degree is one where, like, I think in our case, we had our readings given to us about a month in advance. So that was allow us to like catch up or figure out what we're going to be put in front of us. But I mean, from basic things like Khan Academy, or if Harvard's allowing those kinds of classes, I think really identifying, okay, this is what we're expected to learn by the end of that semester or next semester, and saying that's what I feel strong on, that's what I'm weak on, let me go for it. And I think, again, just making use of your students, your fellow students, because people are coming fresh from undergrad or have been working in these fields. So I think once you have that bond with the people who are going through it with you, that's not just even before, that's the whole way through that you'll get that chance to really round out those skills.
Yeah, I also just had a couple weeks in between work and school, so I was spending a lot of that time looking at the courses, and I was really encouraged, and this is why I didn't do any extra coursework. They have a lot of beginner classes for people who are coming in at different stages of career, from different career paths. So for example, I wanted to learn more about finance, but I had no background in it, so I took a kind of intro accounting, finance, like modeling course, whereas if you already had that background or took a separate course, you could jump into a different class later.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the student session. I want to just thank all of our panelists. I'll turn it over to Alfred, who will tell you about the rest of the program.
Thank you, everybody. So now we're going into the meat and potatoes of the event today, which is our breakout sessions. So I want to just emphasize, raise your hand if you're sustainability management. Excellent. You're going to go ahead and stay right here for breakout session 1. You're in for a treat. Dr. Stephen Cohen's going to be hosting along with Assistant Director Cindy Ip in the sustainability programs. And then for MPA and environmental science and policy, some of you? Okay, excellent. We have our breakout session just behind you. There's a door open, and just to the left, you'll go in there. And then MA Climate and Society, phenomenal. You will go downstairs. I'm in Garden Room 2. And then finally, MS and Sustainability Science. And that's also downstairs. That's Garden Room 1. So it's just on 2 floors. Something else I just want to reiterate, breakout session 1 and breakout session 2 are identical. So I don't want you guys feeling like you're missing something by not going to both breakout sessions. The other element I'll just note is, let's say you already know which program is the best fit for you. You're more than welcome to stay for the second breakout session. Sometimes there's an opportunity to hear a different question, or you can ask additional questions as well. So the final element I want to note is, at the end of the breakout sessions, there will be an optional campus tour. You didn't have to pre-register for it. The optional campus tours of Morningside Heights, and it's going to be departing on the first floor of Faculty House, just outside. And then for those of you that do have that orange sticker on your name tags, you've reserved a seat. You have that magic seat on the Lamont shuttle. So that's going to be departing right outside Faculty House. We are going to meet initially in Garden Room 2 on the first floor. We'll have just a very light lunch, just because you guys are going to be going through a very long day. So if you have any questions, though, please feel free to stop the staff, and I'll allow everybody to start making movement to their breakout sessions. Thank you.